Imagine extraordinary health, boundless energy, limitless vitality, and time to just breathe and experience the joy of feeling truly alive. How would it feel to not just attain an extraordinary life, but also sustain it? How would it feel to have the power, drive, and momentum to create magic moments with your friends, your family, to transform the lives of the people you love most? Over 3 decades ago, Anthony Robbins began his career studying a diverse cross-section of experts and approaches to find the most efficient and effective tools for getting real results. Tony has worked with Dr. Stacy Bell, a former Harvard University professor whose clinical journals have set the standard for nutritional health. He's collaborated with Dr. Deepak Chopra, one of the greatest pioneers of mind-body medicine. Tony's also coached Stu Middleman, who set the world record by running 1,000 miles in 11 days, the equivalent of over 3 marathons a day. Tony has also coached peak athletes like Wayne Gretzky, Serena Williams, and Andre Agassi, and helped them achieve success on their terms. He's been a personal advisor to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, the United States Army and Marines, and Grammy Award-winning musicians. Tony's had a ticket to history and a courtside view of humanity. He has had the unbelievable privilege of meeting leaders who have changed the lives of billions of people, from Nelson Mandela to Princess Diana to Mikhail Gorbachev to Mother Teresa. Tony's helped legendary golfer Greg Norman turn a meltdown on national TV into a career-defining triumph. And he's advised the President of the United States when a life-changing decision was on the line. After having the incredible honor of serving 3 million people of virtually every race, sex, age, political conviction, and religious belief in the world, Tony has discovered that it only takes a few simple shifts in behavior to create an explosion of energy every day of your life. Whatever results you want, whether it's getting the body that you've always dreamed of, making $1 million, or looking into the eyes of the person that you love and feeling grateful, Tony is committed to help you take those small steps to create a foundation of vibrant energy and vitality, transform a minute into a moment, and live the extraordinary life that you know you deserve. Let's begin this journey with a 2-part DVD and join Tony at his health seminar, Vital Life, the Power of Pure Energy, where you will learn how to restore your body's natural balance and take your life to the next level.
Whatever stage of life that we're in, the fundamentals we're going to talk about will make a measurable difference for you, but you're going to have to decide what's right for you. So all I'm trying to tell you is, today, think of this as a second opinion. Think of this as the most important subject of your life, even though you may not have made it that way. Think of it as something that isn't a should, but a total what? A must to master, because if you master this, everything else you can dream of is available to you. And if you fail to master this, everything else goes to the wayside. I mean, I meet people all the time in relationships, and they want relationship therapy, and I say, you know what you gotta do? You gotta exercise, you gotta work out, you gotta lose some weight. You guys are just so tired, there couldn't possibly be any passion. When you're exhausted, there is no passion. And people say, okay, well, I'm gonna really work on a plan, and I'm gonna organize things, and I'm gonna find the best trainer, and you know, I come back and I'm talking to them a week later, and they're still planning things. And this woman's telling me, no, but I'm gonna get the best trainer. I'm gonna have the very best trainer, and organize this. I said, ma'am, with all due respect, you don't need a plan, you need a trainer, you need somebody who gets behind you and just yells, run! Move! You don't need this long plan, you just gotta move. You know, we're living in a society where nobody moves anymore. What do we like today? How do people get injured today? They don't get injured smashing into people, playing football and everything else. They get injured typing, right? You know, picking up a pencil. That's how people get hurt today, because we don't use everything anymore. We live in a box. Think about it. Think about our lives today and how different it is than maybe the way we were formed to be made. To run, to hunt, to create, to procreate, to raise our children, to move, to farm, to do all the things that made us use all of our body. Today, what do? You wake up and you have this box life. You have a box breakfast, right? You get in your box car, you drive to your box office, you load up a box elevator. You don't use the stairs, of course, right? You go to your box office where you type on a box, talk on a box, right? Go into a box room for meetings, right? Sure enough, got a little box you can type on, listen to music on, box, have your box lunch, drive your box home, or get in the train or subway, and another box home, get home to your box, and then turn on the box, type on a box, message on a box, and maybe go get a cylinder to change your state, right? Maybe. And most people's idea of exercise in our society today is fill the tub, pull the plug, and fight the current. It's like, that's the world we live in today. And so it's not hard to figure out why we're getting fat and why we're feeling kind of tired and why we're building up acid in our system, consuming foods that have nothing alive in them anymore, where everything is denurtured and everything is chemicalized or radiated. So it can feel overwhelming. But I think if we got back to our common sense and if we were really committed, we could make it all work. And what I'm trying to say to you is really simply this morning. I'm going to take the morning and not talk to you about how to do this. We're going to figure out why to. Because 80% of success in anything is psychology and 20% is mechanics. It's the beliefs you have that are guiding your decisions. Listen, if you make a different decision, will you take different actions? Yes or no? Yes. If you take different actions, will you get different results? Yes or no? Yes. So this day is about some new decisions. Some decisions about what you're going to believe about health and energy, how important it's going to be from you from now on. What's going to be a must for you versus a should for you. And it's not going to be a day about giving everything up. So those of you who stop breathing while I'm talking about that, I'll give you a little clue. Now, if you met me when I was 25, that's what everything was. Everything was give everything up, right? Because I was a masochist. I was extreme. But thank God I met my wife, Sage, right? Anybody who's been through our Life Mastery program, they all bow to Sage because she balanced me out. Before I met Sage, I'd gone 24 years without one bite of chocolate. 24 years. I didn't eat ice cream. I didn't eat anything. And then I met her. And here's this woman who's just beautiful, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I met her getting my blood done at my own program. And sure enough, she's amazing. We make a connection. We became friends. Long story short, though, in doing the blood with her, when I finally started to date her, I thought, this woman, she's into wheatgrass. She's a phlebotomist. She could do my blood daily. I know how I'm doing it. This is cool stuff, it's really cool. She's an acupuncturist, right? So she can do acupuncture. I'm like, wow, And frankly, I have, a certain amount of pride in my understanding of vitality and health and my ability to execute in that area. But she blew me away in what she knew in this area. She's had a practice for years. She worked with people that are dying to help turn them around, and some of them that are dying that are going to make a transition. She's there for them emotionally in hospice. So she's an unbelievable woman. So we go out on a date. And we're talking everything else. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking, wheatgrass, we're going to have greens. She's going to be the easiest lifestyle in the world. Being around her will be so easy. And she orders a hot fudge sundae. I was like, I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? And she said, living, anal man. And I said, are you crazy or insane? She goes, everything's in balance. You don't have to be so extreme every single moment of your life. She goes, here's my theory. It's called zig and zag. She goes, I zig. I live this stuff 90% of the time, but I give myself the chance 10% of the time to play and enjoy. I was like, ooh, I didn't like that at all. Playing and enjoying, right? Food should not be entertainment. Because it took an unbelievable amount of discipline to create the changes and momentum in the other areas of my life, and I applied it here too. But fortunately, I've matured a little bit, and now I have ice cream every now and then, and I have just about everything every now and then because I want to be with my wife. And it's actually put a balance in my life. There's actually a relaxation. There's an enjoyment. When I'm doing things that are healthy, I enjoy being healthy because it doesn't feel like I haven't do this. It's because I'm choosing to. And I know I always have the freedom to choose something else. But I choose the vast majority of the time those things that give me more energy, because once you feel this kind of vitality in your body, you never want to go back. Let me tell you how my journey began real quick. This woman I was very close to calls me up one day, and she's hysterically emotional, and she can't even talk. I mean, what is it? What is it? She goes, my mom, it's my mom, it's my mom. And, you know, people, and they can't breathe. I said, what? She said she has cancer. And I was like, oh, I don't even want to hear about this. I don't want to hear the subject. I don't want to do this. And I said, what? Well, what did they say? She said they gave her 9 weeks to live. She had tumors up here in her shoulder that were protruding out, and she had them in her feminine organs. And so my whole heart just like freaked out. But one of the interesting things that I think it's beautiful about human beings is most of us inside will do more for other people that we love than we'll ever do for ourselves. I mean, no BS. How many of you do much more for your kids than you do for yourself? Even though it doesn't make sense, you do it. Come on, how many do this? Say I. It's part of the beauty of human beings. It's part of what humanity is really about. So I went from scared to I gotta help. And when I kicked I gotta help, all my fear disappeared. And so instantly, in every other area of my life, I always knew, okay, here's how life works. Anybody else is getting a result, I don't care what the result is, you can get it as well. All you gotta do is model them. So I said, look, there have been plenty of people that have had cancer, and they were told they're terminal, and they got over it, and they got it turned around, they're totally healthy today. I said, well, listen, don't you give up. This is absurd. Let's go find people that have turned it around. People that were told there's no way you're gonna make it. Let's find out what they did. We'll get her to do the same thing. She'll get the same results. That's what we'll do. And she said, well, I don't even know where to start. And do you know anybody? I said, I don't. But I said, you know, people take a lifetime, and they take their lifetime and put it in a book or a decade of their life. I said, there's gotta be answers here. I said, I will find the answers. I said, I promise you. And so I kicked into gear, and I said, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read a book a day. You know, I took a speed reading class, and I would consume it. I wouldn't just read one more time. I'd go through it and underline it, go back through and pull the pieces out and figure out how I could apply it. And so I didn't quite do that, because as I started reading, after I got to about the 15th book, I really found myself in a place where I was totally confused. Because it's like one expert would say, do this and this and this, and you'll live forever. And then you'd be this other expert, and they go, no, don't do that. If you do that, you're an idiot, you'll die. Do this and this and this, and you'll live forever. And then you read a third one, and then I'm reading about two of them are suing each other over which one is right. And I'm thinking to myself, this is completely insane. So I had to come up with a criteria of how I would know. How do I know? I'm not gonna put my life into somebody else's hands, and I'm certainly not gonna do that for a dear friend. But what I decided is, it's gotta not only make sense from science, because they all seem to be scientific, they all have the background, they all seem to be able to prove their point, and they all are teaching the opposite of what it takes to be healthy. So what it's gotta be for me is it's gotta make common sense. So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna create a little common sense corner over here. When I'm reading in my mind, I'm gonna go, okay, does this make any sense? This makes sense to me. I can see it in nature. I know this experience in my body. And then if it made common sense, the next step is put it in action and measure it. So you're still not just going with your intellect, you're seeing, does it produce the result? The ultimate test is when the rubber meets the road is, what does it do to your body? What does it do to your energy? What does it do to your health? So as I went through all these books, I finally came across a few that I really thought made sense. And one of the books I gave this woman is a book called One Answer to Cancer. And it wouldn't be the first book I'd recommend today, honestly, but what it taught was, it was a man who was told he was gonna die within 11 weeks. He had liver cancer, if you're familiar with that, and part of his pancreas. And pancreatic cancer is, you know, you're terminal basically. And he was a dentist. And he just decided that he understood that the process in the body, the way toxicity builds up in the body from studying the teeth, that he'd be able to clean that out of people's mouths and change them. He thought, I should be able to clean that out of my body. And he thought, you know, disease feeds. The body breaks down because there's an environment that's polluted. He doesn't just break down. It's not like something just strikes me. There had to be something there in my environment that did that. And he said, I'm gonna purify my environment. And so he went on this cleanse, and he cleansed everything. He cleansed his colon, an area where it's not an attractive subject, but the average American's walking around with anywhere from 8 to 20 pounds of dried fecal matter that's hardened in their colon. And when they opened, remember John Wayne? When they opened him up, they had 28 pounds of hard fecal matter that was dried hard in his colon, toxicity. So he cleansed his colon. He did all kinds of very amazing things. He went on live food diets to give his body the enzymes that would need to be alive. So I took this whole thing and I went to this woman, and her name's Liz, her mom, and I said, listen, Jenny, I said, I know they're telling you that this is over, but I said, you gotta at least read this. Read this book. And what do you got to lose? This guy did it. You know, they say you're going to die. What do you got to lose? And then I gave her a second book that I do recommend still, and it's called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's one of my favorite little books. I hope you've read it. If you haven't, go read it. You can read it in an hour. As a Man Thinketh. Because even at that stage in my life, I realized the power of your mind, which really is your mind and emotions, because they go together. As soon as you think it, you start to feel it. And I thought, you know, as you think, so is it done unto you, right? As you think, so you become. So I thought, you know, we got to change her thinking, because if she thinks she's going to die, you know, that's like the voodoo curse. You know, your body responds to what it is that you believe and what it is you experience all the time. And so I gave her these 2 books, and then she started applying them. And it was unbelievable. She lost like 15 pounds immediately. And you could see within, I don't know, probably accurately 2 weeks, the shift where you would barely see this going here. It sunk down to something so small you could barely do it. So the doctor then comes to her and says, well, I don't understand what's going on. We ought to do exploratory surgery. And she comes to me and asks me what she should do, and I'm a 19-year-old kid. And I go, oh, great. You know, I tell you no, and then you die, and that'll make me feel really good and your family good. I said, I can't make this decision. I said, you got to make this decision. She said, well, the doctor says I should do it. I said, well, you know, to me, if you can physically, you're feeling so much more energy, you're not going through these vomits. You've seen this has shrunk. You can feel this area shrunk. As this area down here shrunk, she said, yes. I said, so, well, you know, that's the lymph of your body that's shrinking down also. Those areas where the lymph is, that's the part of your body that's like the sewage system. That's what gets rid of the waste out of your body. I said, so all this is getting smaller. I mean, that appears to be a good sign. I mean, I can't tell you. She goes, I don't know, okay. She goes, I don't think I'll do it. And then her doctor convinced her to go for the exploratory surgery, but it was 2 more weeks. By the time it was 2 more weeks, you couldn't see anything here, and she couldn't feel anything in here. 4 weeks. And so she goes in, and they do the exploratory surgery because he convinced her they must. So what I did with this woman when she went through this process is they opened her up, and guess what? They found something the size of the end of my pinky fingernail was all that they could find. In her female organs, nothing in her shoulder. And this is, I think, 5 weeks into it, 6 weeks into it. At 9 weeks, she felt so vibrant alive, it was unbelievable. So she went around and started doing conversations at her church and people, because everybody's saying, you know, how you doing, Janie? She goes, I'm totally fine. I've had this experience. And she went to her doctor, and the doctor couldn't explain. He said it was a spontaneous remission. And she said, well, let me tell you what I did. He goes, it's a spontaneous remission. Doesn't matter what you did. Right? And he was very intense. You know, she goes, no, I prayed, and I've done this with my mind, I've done this with my body, and I've done this thing here. And he wasn't hearing it. So she would go around to her church and she'd talk about all the things that she did. And Jenny's still alive today. She's a dear friend of mine. She's a family